family.
Looks like Encanto 2 might finally fix one of the biggest missed opportunities from the first movie, giving Bruno Madrigal his proper spotlight. The first Encanto was a magical, emotional story set in Colombia, centered around the extraordinary Madrigal family who all had special powers, thanks to a miraculous candle that appeared when Alma Madrigal lost her husband during an armed conflict. That candle gave her and her children a magical refuge, turning their home into the enchanted casita and blessing each child with their own unique gift. But among this colorful bunch, no character stood out more than the misunderstood Uncle Bruno. He was one of Alma's 3 triplets and one of the first to receive a magical gift. Bruno could see visions of the future, a power that sounds useful but turned out to be more of a curse. His visions, often misinterpreted as bad omens, made everyone uneasy. Instead of being celebrated, Bruno became the family's black sheep, the one everyone avoided or whispered about behind closed doors. And that's how we got one of Disney's most viral songs ever, We Don't Talk About Bruno. The song was an absolute global phenomenon, topping charts across the US and the UK for weeks. But the iconic part? Even though the song was about him, Bruno himself didn't sing a single note. The entire number is sung about Bruno by other family members and villagers, painting him as this mysterious, always spooky figure whose predictions always seem to bring disaster. But from Bruno's perspective, it's clear he never meant any harm. His gift just came with consequences no one wanted to face. And that's what makes his absence from the soundtrack so frustrating. Lin-Manuel Miranda, the musical genius behind Hamilton and Moana, crafted incredible numbers for Encanto, but somehow Bruno never got the chance to tell his side of the story through a song. Even when he finally appears later in the movie, hiding in the walls of the casita after years of isolation, the story doesn't let him explain his pain in his own words. He joins in the final group song, All of You, but that track focuses on the whole family, not Bruno alone. Considering how beautifully tragic and layered his character is, it feels like a missed opportunity not to have given Bruno a solo. Mirabel, who can relate to Bruno's sense of being an outsider because she doesn't have any powers, gets to understand his loneliness. Still, the movie never lets Bruno voice that internal struggle himself. It's especially disappointing because his actor, John Lasseter, is a talented singer who's proven his vocal chops in Moulin Rouge and even managed to sing in that hilariously squeaky Sid the Sloth voice in Ice Age. Imagine what he could have done with a full Bruno ballad. That's why Encanto 2 has a golden opportunity to give Bruno his moment to shine with a solo number that dives deep into his mind and heart. Even though he's been accepted back into the family by the end of the first film, it's not exactly easy to adjust after spending years hiding away in the walls with only rats for company. His gift, seeing the future, is both a blessing and a curse, something that Dolores even calls out in the song We Don't Talk About Bruno. So what would a Bruno solo song sound like? It could be something haunting and introspective, filled with tension and self-doubt, reflecting the anxious energy that comes with knowing what's coming but not being able to stop it. The tone could be darker and more dramatic than the usual Disney tune, maybe with intense drums, echoes of whispered noises, and a sense of foreboding woven through the lyrics. That kind of song could really stand out and remind audiences that not all Disney magic is sunshine and rainbows. Plus, after the underwhelming reactions to Wish and the upcoming Moana 2 soundtrack buzz, Disney could definitely use a big musical hit again. But it's not just Bruno who deserves more story. There's another major theory floating around, one that fans have been obsessed with since the first film. Mirabel might finally get her own powers. In the original Encanto, Mirabel's whole arc revolves around being the only family member without a gift. Her deep love for her family and her connection to Casita are seen as her strengths instead. But if Encanto 2 decides to give her an actual power, it would mark a huge step forward in her character growth. How could that happen? Well, in the first movie, the Madrigal's magic originally appeared after the death of Alma's husband, Pedro. So if the sequel follows that same emotional pattern, the loss of another family member, possibly Alma herself, could trigger a new miracle, this time through Mirabel. It would be poetic if instead of receiving her own room like everyone else, Mirabel inherited Alma's, symbolizing her taking on the role of the new family matriarch. Another theory suggests that Mirabel might earn her gift through personal growth rather than tragedy. Maybe Bruno foresees a future where she gains her powers, setting her on a journey of self-discovery. This could lead her on an adventure filled with challenges where she learns that her strength doesn't come from magic alone, but from her heart, compassion, and resilience. And perhaps a special relic or family symbol could act as the key that finally unlocks her miracle. Then there's Alma's backstory, something that Encanto only touched on briefly. The first movie gave us glimpses of her youth and the heartbreaking moment she lost Pedro, but we never really saw her life as a young widow raising triplets in a new magical world. Encanto 2 could expand on that, showing Alma's struggle to raise her children alone while managing their emerging powers. It could explore how she grew into the strict, protective matriarch we see in the first film. A deeper dive into Alma's story would not only be emotional, but also meaningful representation. Seeing a single mother raising 3 magical kids while holding her family together would be a powerful message, and something rarely shown in animated films. Plus, imagine how adorable it would be to see baby Julieta, Peppa, and Bruno discovering their powers for the first time. Maybe the sequel could even show the very first candle lighting ceremony, the moment when their magic truly began. Of course, an Encanto sequel wouldn't be complete without some romance. Dolores and Mariano's story deserves a follow-up. In the first movie, Dolores kept her feelings hidden because Mariano was engaged to Isabella, but by the end that situation resolved beautifully, and we saw Dolores finally walking away hand in hand with Mariano. So naturally, Encanto 2 could take the next big step, a wedding. It would make sense for the sequel to take inspiration from Disney classics like Mulan 2, where love and celebration take center stage. Watching the Madrigals and the entire village gather for a vibrant Colombian-style wedding would be a visual treat. Between Isabella's floral magic decorating the venue, Luisa lifting tables effortlessly, and Antonio's animal friends running around the festivities, it'll be pure chaos, but in the best, most Encanto-style way. And speaking of chaos, what if Encanto 2 finally introduced a villain? The first movie didn't have one, which was actually refreshing because the conflict came from within the family. But for the sequel, a well-written antagonist could add a whole new layer of excitement. The villain could be a villager who's jealous or resentful of the Madrigal's magic, blaming them for every little thing that goes wrong. Or maybe there's another family out there who also received a miracle. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.